Hey everyone, welcome back to another Beast of the Mesozoic review. Well, finally, the Wave 2 Tyrannosaurs are in stock, and today we're kicking it off with one of the most anticipated figures in that wave, the Lythronax. Now, this figure is currently available from Creative Beast Studios. It retails for $89.99, and I'll leave a link down below if you'd like to purchase one for yourself. So let's go over the package really quick before we crack open this magnificent looking Lythronax. Love the new art style for the boxes. No more sleeves. The artwork is printed directly on the box. You got the Beast of Mesozoic logo front and center on the top. Lythronax on the side. Tyrannosaur series. That beautiful, beautiful artwork of the Lythronax. Picking off a poor baby Diabloceratops. You can see some of the adults in the background. Spinning around, we get a nice picture of the actual Lythronax figure and the rest of the figures in Wave 2. I have all these figures, and I'll eventually be getting to the review. Reviewing these figures, I love playing with them. Reviewing them, it does get a little bit exhausting with all the extra pieces and the articulation you have to go after, but these figures are just all around an absolute blast to play around with. Because some facts about Lythronax. So that will do it for the packaging. Let's crack this beast open and take a closer look. And here is the Gore King in all its glory. What a beautiful looking figure. I believe the Lythronax was the first figure David showed off fully painted well before the campaign kicked off. All around just a great looking figure, very natural paint scheme to it. Just like most figures in the Tyrannosaur series, the paint apps are taken from inspiration from real life animals. The Lythronax is based off the black, let me get my paper, it's a long one, the black chested spiny tailed iguana. So it has a lot of nice natural colors to it. A lot less flamboyant than most of the ceratopsians. The Tyrannosaur series as a whole, the color schemes have been pretty natural looking. You have a lot of nice yellows and earth tones, browns, blacks, just a hint of red underneath the throat, and just a splash of green on the tail. Lythronax is from the Wawit formation of the late Cretaceous. The other notable species from that formation is, of course, Diabloceratops. Just all around really great looking figure. Lythronax had a very wide head, has that nice binocular vision look. You have a nice sturdy display stand with that metal rod for the feet to plug into. Just all around just a really nice looking figure. I'm really liking these mid-sized, larger figures to mess around with. They're much more fun than the big T-Rexes. You can get them in some pretty decent poses, and you don't feel like they're gonna flop over on you. And now for some measurements. This figure is 16 inches long from the tip of the snout to the tip of the tail, or 40.6 centimeters. Just about 6 inches tall to the top of the head. That'll obviously change depending on how you have the figure position, or 15.25 centimeters. So Lythronax in real life was around 26 feet long, or 8 meters. Put this figure in the 1/19 scale range. And obviously this figure can stand without its display base. I find the best way to do this is use one of the unarticulated legs and an articulated leg just to get the balance right on there. And just like most figures in the Beast of Mesozoic series, you do get a nice collector card featuring that beautiful artwork on the packaging. Here we have the Lythronax snacking on a poor baby Diabloceratops, and on the back we get some facts about Lythronax. And now let's take a look at all the accessories that come with this figure. First, let's start with the base. You get this beautifully detailed base. This is the same base that you're going to see with the Diabloceratops and Bista Reversa. Just different paint apps on here. This one has a nice rocky tone to it. You have some grass and a root growing out, and a couple splotches of moss growing between the rock cracks. And here's a look at the other side. Got more of that moss spilling over. Here is the metal peg for the foot to plug into. This is one of the straight legs, and all you want to do is just really push it in to that base, and that will keep your figure very, very secure on the shelf. And then on the bottom of the base, you do have this H-clip, which allows you to take this smaller rock off for different display options. It's a little bit tight, but as you play around with it, you eventually get it to be much looser. You can use this rock as a different type of display. So let's put the base off to the side and go over the feet. Like I said earlier, you do get a pair of unarticulated straight legs. These are the ones you want to put on the base to keep the figure nice and upright. Here is an articulated leg. You do have a joint at the ankle for some they're really, really tight. I haven't really broken these figures in yet. And you do have feet on the bottom that have a ball joint on it for upwards, downwards, and side to side movement. And you also do get a pair of closed toe feet that are very, very nicely done. Look at the nice detail on the bottom of those feet. And you also do get a pair of walking toes. You see the toe claws all decked out in that glossy gray paint, and you do get a pair of these splayed toes, which are on the articulated feet. And now let's zoom in and take a look at some of the finer details on this figure. Started with this beautiful head sculpt. I think the most striking thing about this head sculpt are those piercing red eyes with the black pupil. It gives the figure a very, very sinister look. You can see all different tones of yellow and earth tones all over the head. You have that nice black stripe around the eye that goes down to the neck. You have another black stripe on the top of the head. All the horns and crest are nicely decked out with some nice dry brushing. And let's open the mouth up and take a look at the detail inside. You do have those big fangs that Lythronax was known for, and you'll notice on this side of my figure, one of the fangs has a chip in it. That was caused by me. You know that really nice thumbnail for this review of it holding the baby Diabloceratops? Yeah, don't try to jam him in there. It did flex the tooth and put a little chip in there, but I think it adds a little bit of character to mine, so I'm not too upset about it, but I just wish the mouths on these figures just opened up a little bit wider, especially if we're going to be snacking on baby ceratopsians. They just really don't fit in the mouth that well. Inside the mouth, you can see the tongue is nicely done. More teeth, painted a nice white coloration. Roof of the mouth has all nice glossy paint on there to give it that wet look. You know, the only criticism I've had about some of these Tyrannosaurs, I just wish the mouth detail, especially the gums, was a little bit more defined. I just think they just look a little bit flat, but just a very, very minor critique on these awesome looking figures. And looking from the front, you can see the Lythronax has that binocular vision. Lythronax had a very, very wide back of the skull. You can see that is beautifully represented on this figure. And then turning it over, you can see some nice red markings for the underside of the throat, a little bit of gray mixed in there, lots of nice folds and wrinkles. Going down to the neck, nice broad muscular looking neck, folds and wrinkles, all that nice scale detail mixed in with those light cream color markings to contrast with that black. Going down to the forearms, got the two fingers, hand claws are done in that glossy gray paint. Going down to the body, got more of that black and cream coloration. You just have the hint of green along the sides right here in the underbelly and along the side of the tail. Flipping the figure over, you can see you have a nice cream coat for the underbelly. Really no defined cloaca slit, boo. And then going down to the hind legs, nice big thick muscular hind legs. The feet are nicely done with this really dark brown. You can see all those scales really just pop with that dry brushing of brown. Here's a view from the top. You know, this shares the same body as the Bistaversa and the Dryptosaurus, obviously minus that feather, coat that David did put on it. You got more of those black markings. And going down to the tail, here we have a mix of those black markings, some reddish markings, a little bit of that green, and more black down to the tip of the tail. So all around, another really, really beautiful T-Rex Tyrannosaur figure. Now for articulation, mouth can open up that wide. Like I said earlier, I just wish all the mouths in these Tyrannosaurs open up just a little bit wider. Head can look up pretty high. It can look down that much. You get some nice side to side movement now with the adjusted hoodie. You know, that was a big, big issue with the other Tyrannosaurs. You do get somewhat of a gap in there, but it looks like for Cyberzoic, David is readjusting, how these hoodies work. The articulation on these theropods are going to be much better going forward. These things are always a constant evolution. On the neck joint right here, you do get some upwards and downwards movement on that neck joint. Going down to the forearms, you get forwards, backwards. They can swing out just a little bit. You get about 90, my new studio is really, really slippery compared to my old ones. My figures slide all over the place. The arms can get about 90 degrees. You do have wrist articulation, inward, outward, and rotation. You do have a joint for the mid-torso. You can get some upwards and downwards movement on that, and some side-to-side movement. Going down to the hind legs, you get some backwards and forwards movement. You get some really, really good forward movement on those hip joints. And this is the articulated legs. You do get a bend at the knee, a bend at the ankle, and tiltage on the feet. Let's spin it around. This is the non-articulated leg. The only articulation you get is at the knee joint. And then going down to the tail, you have a 3-segmented tail. You get upwards, downward, Side to side movement, same thing for the next joint, and the end joint right here is a bendable rubber wire, so you get some poses out of that. It's all around, just like all the other Tyrannosaur figures. The articulation is pretty good. You just got to really mess around with them to get them some dynamic poses and just get your balance right. Moving on with comparisons, first up, let's start with the Hammond Collection Robert Muldoon. These are 3 3/4 inch figures, so they are 1/18 scale, so they scale really well with most of the Beasts of Mesozoic figures. And surprisingly, this is not our first Lythronax figure. PNSO recently came out with their take on this species, which is also a fantastic figure. The biggest difference is obviously the size, is that PNSO went with the lipless look. Collecte actually did one years ago. I have that figure somewhere, but disappeared into the black hole. That is my basement, especially since I moved, but that was a nice little feathery version of Lythronax, which I believe was the actual first figure of this species. And next up, let's do the Ceratopsian found in the Wawheap formation. Here it is with Diabloceratops and the little Diablo McNuggets. I swear these little babies were only made so the Lythronax can snack on them. And like I said earlier, just be really careful trying to place the babies in the mouth of Lythronax. Those big fangs get in the way, and I already damaged a tooth on mine, so just be really careful when you're trying to play around with these. And let's move Mr. Gorking off to the side. Here it is with its wave mate, Bista Haversa. Like I said earlier, they both share the same exact body type. I think the only resculpted parts are obviously the heads and I believe the neck hoodies. And here's another wave mate of the Lythronax, the Proceratosaurus. I'll eventually be getting to reviewing that one. And I got one more wave 2 Tyrannosaur over here. Here it is with the Chinsusaurus. And lastly, here it is with the 1/18 scale monster figure Tyrannosaurus Rex. So final thoughts on the Lythronax, another great figure from Beasts of the Mesozoic. From the start, Beasts of the Mesozoic has been absolutely killing it with the Raptor series into the Ceratopsian series, and now we're into Tyrannosaurs, and we're right on the cusp of Cyberzoic. There's just so much cool stuff going on with this company. It's been great to watch it evolve over the years. So yeah, the Lythronax, great looking figure, has a nice natural color scheme, which will be very appealing to most people. I know some were turned off from the very vivid color schemes a lot of the Ceratopsians had. The articulation is sufficient on here. My biggest complaint is I just wish the mouth would open up just a little bit wider. Other than that, great figure, definitely worth the $90. You can see all the care and attention that went into sculpting and making these figures. You definitely feel the quality when you get one of these in your hand. And like I said at the beginning of the review, there is a link down below in the description to order this figure from Creative Beast Studios. So that will do it for the review. Pretty much just the whole week and coming up will be taken up mostly by Beast of the Mesozoic reviews. I have the PNSO Megalosaurus coming in. We'll see what new figure Holland drops next, because they seem to release figures like every week or two. So stay tuned for all that. And as always, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, show your support by hitting that subscription button just below the video. Each subscription helps out the channel tremendously and is greatly appreciated. And I'll see you guys for the next one.